Shalom. Welcome again to another exciting edition, special edition for this evening only, first come first serve, of the Torah Watchman show series. Yes, this is a special news announcement, special breakthrough news. Occasionally I have these when special, unique events happen in my life, and I like to share them with you because I consider you my friends and family. My family at large, yes, both near and far. I hope everyone's had a wonderful, blessed week. I hope you have. I had a very interesting Shabbat, and that is probably what I'm bringing to the table for the immediate discussion, what has been going on in this Orthodox Hasidic Jews' life and Kit Mill, Eruv, in Silver Spring, Maryland, of the United States of America. Let's get started. So, my wife and I, we moved to this area specifically by intent. We wanted to live in an Orthodox community for quite some time. We just didn't have the resources or the logistics per se. Our daughter was growing up, and then you had the COVID crisis and pandemic and all that. All that's behind us now, hopefully for most people. And we were renting a home in Fairfax County, Fairfax City, in Northern Virginia. And the only Orthodox Shul they had there to go for a self-respecting Jew, like my wife and I and our family, is a Chabad Shul. Baruch Hashem, a wonderful, wonderful shul there. If you're in that area, I would strongly encourage you to go there. Rabbi Deitch, I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly, a wonderful, wonderful. In fact, the rabbi is so wonderful, and he's doing so many mitzvah things in the community and growing it. He actually has now a demarcation kind of boundary per se of an official Eruv and a predominantly secular Jewish city there. A lot of Jews by population, but very few observant Jews, unfortunately. But he's a teacher in the Torah. He's a rabbi with Chabad, from blessed memory of Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He's one of the Chabadniks, and he's keeping that blessed memory of the Rebbe going strong, right? So that was our home for, I would say, about 2 years or more, where our daughter's growing up, and we were renting a home in a small community there, and it was about almost 2 miles to walk to the shul. My wife has problems walking. But anyway, we eventually were waiting on our home to sell in Charleston, South Carolina, where I met my wife and dated my wife, and we had our adventure story beginning there too. And I want to give you a touchstone there. When I met my wife in Charleston, South Carolina, I was just getting off of military duty. I was working in Guantanamo, Cuba, of all places. You know, the KSM, the 9/11 hijackers, all the bad people there. I was doing checks and balances for the U.S. Army primarily and the federal government. I met my wife through Jew Date, and so it was enough for me to say I want to get off Gilligan's Island and move to Charleston, South Carolina, because I actually found out I had ancestors there buried there, blessed memory. Many of them Jewish. So my wife had found out that she had a home synagogue of her own. And her grandparents had already passed away. And she would go to that synagogue occasionally, special events like high holidays. She would light Shabbos candles and things of that nature, but she was not really too Orthodox or observant at all. She didn't have any coping systems, any support systems. Her mother was not really very religious either. Her grandparents had passed. So she was kind of a leaf in the wind at that time when I met her. Well, when I met her, I found out about her wonderful Jewish history going back to the Holocaust. I really did. It really touched my heart. I fell in love with her almost immediately. I had to be very careful because, we've made mistakes in the past of being naive in people's intention. But, God was guiding the way there. I'm not giving you a romantic story here. I'm just giving you a platform or foundation for this talking point. So her home shul, the synagogue there, was a conservative with conservative Judaism. They had a conservative Judaism rabbi there. Okay. Now at that time, my driving force to break me out of the pretty much generalistic religious life I was living at that time. I was going from synagogue to synagogue. I had some really good Jewish friends. I knew and I had good evidence that my father had come from a very strong Jewish ancestry, Sephardim from Spain, the Mediterranean Sea in that area. But I was not so sure at all about my mother. I just did not have evidence at that time. But you know, when you grow up and you feel in your heart that you are leaning on an anchor or leaning on something, it was leaning more on my father's mother, my Bubby, and grandfather, as feeling Jewish were there. But you know, even then, without any Jewish education, without any Jewish tradition, only some liberal Reformed Jews and friendships, a lawyer, a Jewish lawyer, fellow astronomer in that area in Louisiana, I did not have any support system at all. So I was a leaf in the wind too. But you know, having a sanity check and checks and balances, well, you know, why do I have a drive in my heart to learn Hebrew in my 20s when I was left active duty during that time? You know, to get a menorah, get a Hebrew Bible, Tanakh, Hebrew language book to learn Hebrew. I even took courses in ancient languages. You know, I was feeling Jewish, but I knew in my heart I was not Jewish because I did not confirm my mother's status. And at that time when I met my wife in Charleston, South Carolina, the only compromise solution that really made sense, and my wife had felt comfortable to that synagogue, and I wanted to tell her that you can't go to that synagogue anymore. We didn't have a lot of choices there. There are only a few Orthodox synagogues in Charleston, South Carolina, because it's a very progressive, liberal city. A lot of secular Jews there too. And then you always used to be, but it was. Anyway, this conservative shul, I talked to the rabbi there, and he set before a battle plan, a plan of action for me. I told him I want to be formally engaged to my wife, and my intent is to marry her forever. And he said, I would love to help you, but you really need to go through a conservative conversion track first to the conservative rule book. And I was asking him, what is this about? And I understand, you know, when you say conservatism, you think about political conservatism, but that's not what conservative Judaism is about at all. It means that they conserve the basic principles of the Torah and the Talmud. So the basic principles of the oral tradition and written tradition, like kosher root and things of that nature. But they are different, and their worshiping experience, in fact, namely, the women and men do not sit in separate places. They sit together as husband and wife. And then they allow women to interact in the Torah service and the Bima and things of this nature as well. Not germane to get into further detail, but that is the life that my wife was living before I met her. So I was so excited. I was a Baal Teshuva Jew. My wife essentially a Baal Teshuva Jew, because she was leaving her secular belief system behind in the Soviet Union, and that she was a Russian Jew born in Sukhumi, Abkhazia, a small little province there south of the Georgia Republic today along the Black Sea. You know, a guy from Louisiana meeting her. Anyway, conservative Judaism is what, you know, pretty much, that's how we were beginning our marriage, you know, our cornerstone, for better for worse. I didn't agree with everything that's going on there. It's progressive, liberal, and the rabbi is very political, and I didn't like that. But, you know, I did walk away with a certificate of conversion through the conservative Judaism headquarters. It's based on the East Coast. And that according to their rule book, I'm a Jew for life. And actually, that shul was fortunate enough to have a partnership with a local Orthodox synagogue, in which in the conversion process, you're required to go before a rabbinical board and then testify why you want to be a Jew. And even before that, there was a medical doctor who was Orthodox, certified to do a brit. Well, you know, I don't want to get into all of that. You know, I was circumcised a long time ago, but they had to have evidence of a brit. I don't want to get into that. But anyway, there was a mikvah too, where you would take off most of your clothes, and then you go into a swimming pool-like thing, a mikvah, pure spring water, and then you had the blessings. You go in the water completely submerged, I think 3 times, and then you come out a new person. It was a very truly spiritual awakening time. Other people in the class were going through the same experience, and I made strong friendships, almost like a family. You know, even to this day, I called a lady recently about what's happening. So, you know, that's how we started out. And then when my wife became pregnant and things kind of turned around a little bit, I grew this beard. And I noticed that a lot of Jewish men there did not have beards, for whatever reason. They certainly did not wear this. They did not have black and white standard protocol that I'd expected to be Jewish. I did see a few Orthodox Jews there, and I kind of wanted to be like that because I thought that was correct doctrine. That's what Orthodoxy means. But as my daughter grew older, there's some scandalous things happening in the shul with a rabbi, the divorce, and all this. I don't want to call any names, but it was enough to put point to say enough is enough. My wife agreed with that. It's just we don't want to raise our daughter up in this environment. So we started going to Orthodox Shul, okay, nearby, and we actually went to a Chabad Shul down there too. So this was a growth for us. About Jews essentially means mastering of your life, and control of chaos, and a life of leading up to forgiveness and redemption. That's what Yeshua means. It means submitting to God, the one true God of Israel, submitting to the 5 books of Moshe, Halakha, Shulchan Aruch, and the formal legal code of Judaism is what separates us from non-Jewish people. So, you know, we were leaning on that. And then I got laid off and I had to sell my house. And back to the story, we moved up in the D.C. area. And this is where I've been nearly 3 years. Well, when we moved up here, we were shopping for a synagogue. I wanted a synagogue close to what I had at Chabad in Fairfax. When I actually bought my veteran home underneath my name's on the title, living in Silver Spring and Kit Mill, the Arrow there, kind of north of the DC Diamond per se, and everything is walking distance. That's a blessing. That's what I wanted. I paid $700,000 not to blow smoke on my tailpipe, especially to not impugn my righteous witness before my daughter. I didn't want my daughter to grow up seeing her father in a car on Shabbat and lighting fire and combustion and all this. We don't do that. So I'm a very strong proponent against that. Turning on hot water and things like that. You take a bath before Shabbat. So we're gradually becoming more and more Orthodox. With my leadership at home, my wife did not like too much of that, but she's a very righteous woman, as Shekyle. She did everything she can to appease me, my excitement as a Baal Teshuva Jew. And it's a very exciting a role to play in a world surrounded by all kinds of confusion messaging. But, I was learning the Orthodox way to pray. I was learning the Orthodox way to understand the Talmudic and Midrashic studies. I would not be teaching the Torah and Jewish history and Jewish issues like this one on the Torah Watchman channel if I did not learn something. And when I learn something, I like to depart some messaging to you and share it with you and get your feedback. So, bringing this to the center point I'm going is, we started out going to one synagogue. It was privately owned, and it's a very interesting environment in which the rabbi and his family owned everything, and it was not public, organized like modern Orthodox is, or Chabad with public connections and things of that nature. Very privatized, and the school is privatized too. My daughter still goes to that school, Silver Spring Learning Center, and I fully recommend it. Okay, for the expense, the budget, and everything else, and for the close net, the teacher's environment. They're training her and educating her to be an Orthodox Jewish woman, and that's what I want. And my wife has done everything she can to be a perfect witness for that. But we had problems even with that shul. We went there, we left there, we went back, and all the mess with COVID and putting masks on shofar. And then you're not allowed to come into the shul even if you're fully vaccinated unless you have a mask over your face. It was a miserable experience trying to pray, and especially high holidays of mass. But you have to abide by that, medical requirements in CDC, and of course a very liberal president. But anyway, we got past all of that, and we visited other synagogues too. The problem is that my wife has limitations on her walking and her movement. I mean, to walk even 3 miles on Shabbat, a mile and a half going, a mile and a half coming back, it's even hard for this old man, and much less my wife, and of course my daughter's antics on that. But it's a wonderful walking exercise, but still it gets too much. So we wanted to find a place that was close. So then we went to a beautiful synagogue as close to the Shalom Kosher grocery store. Its name is Young Israel. Shamrei, I believe. It's been there probably, I would say, 30, 40 years. It's been there for a while. So the reason why I was very interested in that synagogue from the very beginning. I've only been a few times in the past. Went there for the principal's son for his bar mitzvah celebration. But they have a Sephardi shul in the basement, literally a very small synagogue within a synagogue. Very unique thing, and I thought it was interesting. You had Ashkenazi on the top floors, and they had Sephardi in the bottom. I don't know. I think it should have been the reverse. Anyway, I love that style of worship. I have several versions of Sidars, Ashkenazi, Chabad, even one from the conservative shul I used to go to, and the Sephardi one is my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite because I think I show respect for my Sephardic ancestors of blessed memory on my father's side. Okay. Long story short, I was going there for about 2 weeks recently, and the rabbi noticed I was going there. A year before that, I was interviewing other rabbis. When you go to a synagogue and they haven't seen you before, they want to know who you are. And the synagogue is worth its snuff, and he's going to be friendly, right? He can say, "Who are you? Glad to have you," and all this. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And they like to know who's coming and going, okay? We have security issues. We have police outside our synagogues during the Shabbat. So the different synagogues we went to, we actually interviewed ourselves. And I'm the kind of person, I'm not deceptive. I've been previously married, my wife has too, and we've made mistakes. And it's all part of Teshuvah. You have to be in truthful and everything. And I told him I'm a Baal Teshuvah Jew, my wife is too. By our lifestyle, we've chosen to be more Orthodox instead of conservadox per se. And I told him, I said, well, presently, my mother's status as Jewish ancestry, and it has to be from mother to mother to mother, because of a first century rabbi's ruling. He changed it from being born of a Jewish father to a Jewish mother. Yeah, whatever, I don't want to get into debate. That's why we do that. A first century rabbi, after the temple was destroyed. So we go by that, and this rabbi, I told him, I couldn't have told him anything. I could have lied to him. He does not go and take a blood test or a fingerprint test and see if you're Jewish or not. He doesn't measure the length of your nose like Hitler did. But I was honest. I was honest with him. He said, well, since you were not born with Jewish tradition, and since your mother was not buried in a Jewish cemetery, well, she didn't know she was Jewish. I don't hold that against her. He said, you probably should be better to go through an Orthodox conversion. I can help you with that. Well, I was excited about that. My wife was excited about that because she knew that has been stressing with me. When I go to bed at night, I want self-respect. When I dress like this, I want people to know what I am and what I'm made of. Just because I feel Orthodox does not mean that rabbis will respect that Orthodoxy in you. I mean, your witness speaks volumes, right? Again, I spent $700,000 to live in this era, and teaching on YouTube and Parlor and podcast and speaking on behalf of Israel, have an Israeli flag outside my house, all of this. I have a daughter that's born Jewish legitimately by any halakha standard, and I'm paying good money for her to go to an Orthodox cheder, grade school. But, I can provide DNA tests, a Jewish shen, I have ancestors, I can tie it all the way back to the Holocaust and things like that, primarily on my father's side. And my mother, I am actually having people, when they get DNA tests, like Ancestry.com, I'm finding more and more cousins with Jewish ethnicity on my maternal side. So it's more body of evidence, and I'm a scientist and geneticist, and I love that kind of hobby, but rabbis don't care about forensic evidence. They don't care about the preponderance of evidence, like in a court, an admissible court, and all that. All they care about is a piece of paper and three rabbis signing on saying, "Oh, mine, that you completed your fundamental Orthodox courses," and things of that nature. Folks, I know how to read Hebrew. I know how to read transliterated Hebrew, primarily Masoretic text, but also Torah Hebrew with just consonants. I know how to do that. I sing Hebrew. I read Hebrew. And I sing Hebrew in my mind when I go to bed. I hear Barry Weber singing songs in my head all the time. That's the kind of person I am. I'm a self-taught person, and I've been reading the Torah for years. I've been around Jewish friends for years. I've been going to synagogue just piecemeal, but as moving from state to state, in the military, it's kind of hard. Anyway, no excuses aside, I am an Orthodox Hasidic Jew by choice, okay, and I lean towards Sephardi. I am not afraid to say I'm a Bodnik, and also I'm favoring lately as a Nachman with a white hat, a white yarmulke, and I have one of those. But anyway, what I'm saying, I sought that rabbi nearly 2 years ago for Orthodox conversion, get that started, but he never followed up on it. I set a schedule like 2 or 3 months in advance for him to come to my home, check for kosher root status, like any Orthodox rabbi would, questioning your Jewish identity, and then he canceled it. Some COVID excuse or whatever, but at that time it was already past, and he said he wanted to Zoom my wife, and we're walking distance from his office. It was very embarrassing, and it made my wife very unhappy because she spent all day long cleaning. Just no respect, because we knew how important, he knew how important it was for me personally, but it's like he didn't care. But these happen. People get busy, whatever. The thing is, he never followed up on it. Never followed up, and I thought he forgot. He said he was going to contact someone in D.C. That never happened. That followed through. There's a National Synagogue Council or headquarters in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. But that's the first stage of that, and he didn't follow up with that. And I asked him, I said, have you heard anything? Nothing at all. And it just dropped like a boat anchor. So I forgot about him. I forgot about the shul, and then went back to the previous shul that manages my girl's school, my daughter's school. But again, a few weeks ago, I had gone to the Sephardi shul at Young Israel Shamrei here, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the rabbi there. But before I could really plan on going back again, very excited about the Sephardi shul and the way they worship, and I just love it, and I think it's delicious and sweet, very sincere way to worship God. I received an email from the same rabbi. After all this time not saying a word to me in nearly 2 years, he said, I'm glad you enjoyed the Sephardi shul, but you are not allowed to come to my shul anymore, because my policy is you're not allowed to contribute or participate in Jewish prayer in my shul until you go through a full Orthodox conversion approved by me. Now you heard me right. You heard me right. I had to go through a full conservative conversion. Already went through one Orthodox reviewed, or I'm trying to say hosted, conservative conversion, and I have the certificate, I have the license, I'm registered with all of this. It's enough for me to ollie out to Israel today if I wanted to. For full benefit, I can be an Israeli citizen easier than go to this Orthodox shul. The rabbi there is David Rosenbaum. Okay, you might want to look him up. He's been there for a long time. 2010 assistant rabbi. He's the kind of person I don't want to go into negativity. I mean, I like him. He's a good rabbi there for his people. He's a good community leader. But when it comes to Baal Teshuva Jews, when it comes to reform or conservative or no-hides, or even Christians that want to thinking about in my mind, do I want to be Jewish? Is there a Jew in me calling me to be Jewish? The door's locked to you. And I've never seen this in my life. That shul is locked to anyone that is not with proof of a mother buried in a Jewish cemetery, or proof of a full Orthodox conversion. What did I do other than being severely upset about this? Has it been on my mind all the time? I am a Jew for life. I'm a Baal Teshuva Jew. I am proud to be a Baal Teshuva Jew. But I wanted an affirmation letter to be registered with the National Synagogue of D.C. That's all I wanted. And it just takes 3 rabbis to sign a piece of paper. I couldn't get that after everything I've done, after everything approved. Okay? I mean, I give thousands of dollars to needy Jews around the world because God tells me to. A lot more money than this rabbi I'm talking about has done anything good to people. Now, before you say, Rev you are ben-Emmett before you judge another rabbi. You never say anything negative about a rabbi. But you know, rabbi is just a human being like you and me. We make mistakes. They also get divorces. They also are remarried. I mean, look at Rabbi Tovia Singer, for instance. Okay? No one is perfect. What we judge about is how we handle our life today and not what's happened in the past. That's how I judge other people. Okay? If God has already judged something, I just recognize that judgment. Okay? But I am a personal witness to this account. That's what I'm sharing to you. I shared this with another rabbi, excuse me, who's working in that shul, and he thought it was horrible, what the story I told him. Most people agreed that it was horrific, that I am prohibited for Jewish prayer at a house of worship for an organization, a 501c3, that's tax exempt. Not privately owned business. I mean, a private owned business can tell you what you can wear or no service, right? No shirt, no service. Well, this is a public place of worship that has a lot of donations from rich Jews and other businesses and things like this. But it's tax exempt. It's a public place of worship. But I'm not welcome anymore because I cannot prove that my mother was buried in a Jewish cemetery, and I don't have a piece of paper saying I have an Orthodox conversion certificate. I go to yeshiva. I go to YPS is one of the league of its own, one of the creme of the creme yeshivas in the world online. I'm going to yeshiva. I show intent of this. He doesn't care. He has a personal beef with me. I don't know why. Maybe he's jealous of my YouTube videos. I don't know. But anyway, what I did about this, I filed a formal complaint with the ADL, that's the Anti-Defamation League. I filed a formal complaint with the committee of the National Synagogue of D.C., and I'm thinking next to go into ACLU. Why? Because this is not Poland or Germany or Australia. We have a First Amendment, folks. We have a freedom of religious expression. We have a freedom of speech. And it cannot be infringed. For him to discriminate against me, similarly like the people did in the 1960s in the Old South where I come from, I was on a school bus 1 week going to kindergarten where there were just whites, and 2 weeks after that there were whites and black, and there was a lot of social unrest. In fact, the high school there that was close to the kindergarten I was going to was rumored. About a year after that, a desegregation ruling was finalized, and all this was going on in the 70s. I was born in 65. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. and all this during that time. The high school burned down. There was a lot of racial hatred there. I grew up, and I couldn't understand it then. The same fight for civil liberties that even gays and lesbians and trans and everyone are fighting for today. I may not agree with their lifestyle, especially if they're Jews. It's not for me to judge them. But they have civil rights too, right? And it's protected in the U.S. Constitution. I cannot discriminate against them in the workplace or would lose my job. You hear about the D&I as diversity and inclusion. We have to abide by that whether we like it or not. But you folks, that is in our favor too, to respect that. If I don't respect their way of life under the U.S. law and the U.S. code, how do I expect to be able to fight for my rights, not to be discriminated, to be treated fairly in the workplace if I don't respect them? I'm the only Orthodox Jew who is working for the Department of National Intelligence, for the government, for the military. And people respect me. They don't have a problem with me. They think I'm the funniest guy there. I'm just trying to convince my wife of that. But anyway, God bless you. I just want to share this with you. I have a lot of no-hides that are subscribing to the Torah Watchman show. I have a lot of conservative Jews that are part of this. A lot of people thinking about Orthodoxy or Jews coming home. God bless you. I don't discriminate against the people. I teach Ugandan Jews. I teach no-hides in Andhra Pradesh, India. I give them donations of monies to help them out. I put my mouth I put my money behind my mouth. I try not to be a hypocrite. I do give tzedakah freely to people because God has blessed me financially. But I just want to point out to you, that even if you work so hard and God smiles upon you, you know, sometimes Jews can be your worst enemy, right? You know, the UN hates the Jewish people, hates Israel. They even had a resolution against Israel, against their founding, their existence, because of the silliness of the Palestinian, they're mourning that they've lost their land. They lost the land because they sided with loser nations, that cannot fight war. I'm sorry. But I'm saying, we know we have anti-Semitism. In Bethesda, close to me, there was a Nazi swastika, and then a slogan that says, "Hang all Jews," with sticky figures with Haman, around your neck, ropes around your neck, hanging. It's amazing, right? Again, I have a police car outside my synagogue. What I've done to keep my wife happy is go back and find a conservative synagogue that she's used to try to quiet things down in this house. Lower the temperature, and it's winter. Lower the temperature to have a happy home. But you know what? I look like this if I go to that conservative shul with my wife. And I sit separately from her. Why? Because I don't stop being Orthodox, because I've changed my environment. What I want to say is, and I've changed my position because this hits home with me, whether you're a Reform Jew, a conservative Jew, Reconstructionist, no-hide, or you are a Christian that aspires the Jewish life and want to find out more about it, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. I don't agree with the LGBTQI, all of this stuff. I don't. But it's in the world today, and I'm not going to change it myself. And because if I'm against it, then I should not complain if they're against me. That's how it works. Anyway, I love you, and that's why I'm giving it. I want you to pray for my family because I'm going through a hard time. I will continue my yeshiva training, and this will eventually lead to some sort of smicha, organization as a rabbi. I can easily be a conservative rabbi today. In fact, I am actually the community rabbi appointed by the Ugandan Rabbinical Council there, and I have the certificate of that. And that didn't mean anything at all to Rabbi Rosenbaum of Young Israel Shomrei. It didn't mean anything to them. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the certificate recognized by the chief rabbi of the registered yeshiva I'm going to, the very best. It does not mean anything to him. Some rabbis thrive in power and control and authority. If they're chief rabbi, their law is is it. It's their way of the highway. That's pretty much. I guess they don't want my money. They don't want my membership and my donation. Fine, I'll give them to someone who loves me more than they love themselves. There's more to this story coming, but I'm a living witness that there's life beyond conversion. People might criticize me for saying this. Ben-Emmett, you're a hypocrite. You're talking about conservative Judaism. They're not Jewish. Again, until they change the Aliyah law, and a lot of people, the Satmars and Ultra-Orthodox, are trying to change that in Israel today, the grandfather clause, because that goes back to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. If you had one grandfather on either side, you're going into the gas chamber. I had that in me, okay? You can lengthen my nose. I broke my nose before. It would be a straight line here. And my brow and everything is from Moroccan descent. The red hair, there's actually red-haired Jews in Morocco, believe it or not. Plus I'm Scottish. Anyway, I'm a mutt. But what I'm saying is, stay fast. Don't be too negative. Stand up for yourself. Remember God's angels there before you, thrusting that sword at the enemy, at your accusers. King David talked about this quite a bit. We can identify with King David and all his stress and everything he dealt with his enemies. But there's anti-Semitism out there. There's also anti-Semitism, among our Jewish tribe. It is. And it's sad indictment against who we are, how fractured we are. And we wait for the Mashiach to fix stupid. We're praying for Eliyahu to blow the shofar to the four winds to bring in the exiles. What do you think the lost 9.5 tribes of Israel, primarily Samaria, where do you think they are today? You'll find them in a mixed bag of Jewish ancestry with someone who has a great-great-grandfather that's Jewish, or a grandfather that's Jewish, or a second cousin that's Jewish. These are fragment Semitic gene clusters across 23 chromosomes with touch points, little lighthouses, posts, pointing to Jewish souls. To Yehudim Nefesh, pointing to Jewish souls. For any rabbi, to say, I deny you Jewish prayer, not only is it a violation of my First Amendment rights, but what is Hashem's opinion about this? You have a fragmented Jew in the end days, and prophecy says it's going to happen. It's happening today when 10 non-Jewish people seek a Jew. In Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23, he said, teach us how to be Jewish. It's happening today. People coming to me for this. That's why I do the Torah Watchman show. Because I know people are listening and people care about what I have to say. Because the life I live is just so crazy and so unbelievable, but it is happening, and I can still have a smile on my face. Remember, never give up. Never, ever give up the cause. If you feel Jewish in your heart, no matter if your family curses you out, and no matter if your family takes you out of their will and disinvites you at their so-called funeral, they're not dead yet, but they say that, or your brother and sister don't talk to you anymore. Who is that? God loves you. God has a plan for you. Be proud whoever God made you to be, wherever you are, your stature in life. Keep on going. Don't let one or two rabbis to get you down. There's a lot of bad rabbis out there, folks. Just because you go to yeshiva and you get the smekha organization does not mean that God called you to be a pastor, to be a rabbi. The same thing applies to churches. There's bad priests, there's bad pastors. We're all human beings. Gentile or Jewish, it does not matter. Don't think because a rabbi is a rabbi and managing a synagogue that he's a prophet of God. I mean, some people are so arrogant, they don't care about the person around the block there that's going to be kicked out of their home because they can't pay their rent. They don't care about a crying baby all night because they don't have enough food. And these are Jews. They don't care about them because they may not be as Orthodox as them. I could say more. I'm already in trouble. But anyway, I just want you to take home with this. Be careful. Watch out for yourself. Pray for others that are despitefully used. If you think, I tell my wife, and she's complaining on this, say Baruch Hashem. I mean, you could be on a train heading to a gas chamber, and you have a bit of chocolate to give your daughter or kid. It could always be worse, right? Anyway, just knowing you're there listening to me makes me feel better already. Reb ben-Emmett signing out. Share the knowledge of wealth and truth to everyone who is willing to hear it. If they don't want to hear it, give them reason to hear it. Live it. I'm a lighthouse on a hill that will not be hid. I'm not politically correct, and I'm the elephant in the room, okay, of truth. I will never lie to you. And what I said about Rabbi David Rosenbaum, I have evidence of what he said. I have his emails. I did not tell you anything that did not happen personally in my life. And he's doing it to me. He's doing it to a lot of other people. Shalom Aleichem. Take care. Good night.